We've got Matt McKeever from Pocket Pennant. He's one of the people who set it up and started it with Craig Harris. And in a minute here, I'll just turn it over to you. I just noticed though on my news feed here that it looks like the Angels have put all 40 men on waivers, except for Ohtani, who's on there twice, once as a pitcher and once as a hitter. It's unconfirmed, but I just saw that come across my news.
Yeah,
anyway,
we waved the white flag the other day. Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you, Matt.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I was really hoping we were going to pick up Giolito, but I think the Guardians snatched him up. And we used to have Randall Grichuk, who I really enjoyed, but now where did he go? He went to the Reds. So anyway, well, I appreciate you guys having me. I was able to tune in to Brian's video, I guess last month or 2 months ago, when he was doing his on-base baseball and all his various games. And I really enjoyed that. So I'm grateful that a group like this exists. Admittedly, I am a relative newbie to the hobby. I started playing this stuff during the pandemic. I really started playing board games and dice games during the pandemic, and it led me down this path. And I found this community, which I really enjoyed, of tabletop gamers, and by extension, people who really are into, just general baseball information and data and whatnot. I'm actually my day gig is I'm a computer programmer and data analyst. So I love this type of stuff. I've always been into this type of stuff. So cool. Well, I've got a little presentation, PowerPoint presentation, where I'll talk about kind of the history of our game, Pocket Pennant Run. I'll talk about how the game works, how we use data in our game to help kind of fuel the game. And then I'll give you a little demo of kind of what it looks like and what we have in store for the future. And if you are interested, where you can get the game, and then we'll be sure to leave lots of time for any questions you might have. One thing I wanted to mention up on top before I started the presentation is you might find that this game is a little bit different than some of the stuff that you guys cover. As people who are interested in SABR, obviously you're into some deep analytics. Our game is a little bit more boiled down. It's not so much in the same realm as an APBA or a strat or even a history maker or a payoff pitch. It's a little bit more streamlined than that. And that was by design. We felt that there was a need for an area where a game could be very easy to pick up and have a very small footprint while still achieving accurate results. And I'll say this up top because I'll kind of repeat it throughout the presentation. We do not claim that our game is the most accurate, pinpoint accurate, but we made some decisions on how to balance accuracy with ease of play and fun factor. And I think we hit a good middle ground that some of you may enjoy, some of you may go, this is a little bit too vague for me. So totally up to you, but I appreciate you giving us a shot and giving us a look for what we're doing. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and I need to get screen sharing permissions from somebody.
Yeah, that's me. Hold on a sec.
You're good.
I'll just make you a co-host for now, and then you should have everything.
Sounds good. Cool.
But remember, it's being recorded, so you do something bad, man, you're going to be in trouble, not me.
I'll behave.
I don't need help getting in trouble.
All right, let me hide this panel here, and we'll get started. All right, and I thought Craig was going to come. Craig is the other co-creator. If he drops in, I'll let him say a few words. But this is about our game. My name's Matt McKeever. I'm the co-creator and game designer of Pocket Pennant Run. So the people behind Pocket Pennant Run, there's myself. I am from St. Louis, and I'm a computer programmer and musician by trade, and I'm a Cardinals fan. And then Craig, he is from Maryland. He's currently in North Carolina. He's a retired U.S. postal worker and a Navy veteran, and he is a Braves fan. So generally speaking, together we created the game, and I'll talk a little about how we met and how our personalities and preferences sort of led to the creation of the game. I am most involved with designing the game engine and doing a lot of the design of like how the game looks and how it's laid out. Craig, while he helps me with that aspect, his main job is creating the companion software, which we'll talk about in depth. Really an amazing piece of software, but we kind of help each other out with different aspects. So it's really just the two of us running this business, and we've had a lot of fun. And we're going on about 3 years of doing this, and we're really enjoying it. So what is Pocket Pennant Run? We claim, I don't know if it's true or not, but we claim to be the only full-fledged baseball simulation that fits in the palm of your hand, and I'll show you what that's about. So we use just a handful of simple charts, and we have a player rating system that just relies on a couple of basic data points in order to bring players to life, just like you would love to have on any simulation game. It's simple enough to be learned in minutes, but it's got enough strategy and realism to appease even the most experienced tabletop gamers. And I'll show you what's included with the game. You can get a physical game or the print and play. And then we've also got the PPR Manager software, which I really, truly think is the most robust baseball companion software that I've ever seen. We have a database of over 300,000 players and nearly 200,000 as-played lineups. So in the software, you can print out pre-filled scorecards, which for me is one of the biggest things because I have a young son, I have a family, and I don't get a lot of time to sit down and play. So saving that time of filling out the scorecards is really, really helpful to me. You can also generate roster cards, simulate seasons. There's a bunch of stuff in the software that I'll show you. So let me show you a couple of pictures of the game. This is a general, this is what the physical game looks like. Now, this is our second version of the game. We're going to be releasing the third version of our game this fall, and I'll kind of give you a sneak peek at that. But you can see that we've got up in the top left, there's our game box. We've got our manager's handbook. You'll notice that the handbook is just a folded up single piece of paper. The entire rules for the game is on one page of paper, two-sided, and that's it. I kind of joke with the people in our gaming community that if the rules get longer than one page, one sheet paper, double-sided, that I've made the game too complicated. So I really try to stick to that. The game is built around these three dice, the red, yellow, and blue 12-sided dice. We've got some scorecards that you can fill the game out, a pencil, and these here, they're a little bit out of order here, but these are our charts, and I'll show you those more in depth, but each chart fits on one poker-sized card. So there's 8 charts in total, so you can lay them out in front of you, and that's the entire engine of the game. Included in the game are also 8 roster cards, which you can kind of see if you look carefully. We'll talk about, actually, you'll see it more in depth in the next picture, but there are players and ratings here. So I'll show you the next picture. So this is a little closer look at what the roster cards look like. We've got the 22 Dodgers here. So you'll see you've got player name, position. This is, generally the players who played at that position most often. And then there's 4 ratings there: batter, a batter rating, a power rating, a speed rating, and a defense rating. You'll notice that they go from A to D. Now, I know for some of you who really love data, you're already a little bit skeptical, saying there's no way a game this simple can produce real results. But I would challenge you to stick with us because you might be surprised how accurate some of these results get. But that's the general layout of what we're looking at. So about the origin and philosophy of this game, Craig and I met during the pandemic via a dead ball league. Now, I don't know if any of you have heard of dead ball before, but it is a wonderful, wonderful tabletop baseball game that hasn't existed for very long. I think it came out in 2017 or 2018, and it was created by a guy named W.M. Akers, who was also a novelist and a playwright and just a big baseball fan. He created this wonderful game that the only thing that you need to play is a scorecard and a book. He sells a book, And inside the book, it tells you how to play the game. You also need a set of RPG dice, which would be like a 4-sided, 12-sided, 8-sided, 6-sided, and then 2 10-sided dice, and a 20-sided die. It's about 6 dice. So the game is very, very small footprint. It's a ton of fun, and you can, rather than players being carded, you use player stats and convert them to their ratings. So Craig and I found each other kind of through this Dead Ball League, and we were both drawn to Dead Ball because maybe we're just impatient people, but neither of us really enjoy games that take a really long time to play, whether it's an hour or more to play. That's just our personal preference. Some people love to play the games that last for a couple hours. I know for me, just with a busy lifestyle, I like a shorter game. And neither of us are really big fans of games that require a lot of shuffling of cards, individually carded players, lots of charts, having to have binders out. It's just, again, just our preference. If that's what you like, by all means, that's great. So we worked together. Craig was the commissioner of the Dead Ball League, and he asked me to be a co-commissioner with him. So we kind of went through the rules of Dead Ball and kind of refined them to fit our league. And we were trying to streamline the game to make it really, really simple so that other people could join along and play, even if they didn't have experience playing the game. And I know I speak for myself, but I think Craig did as well. We really enjoyed the process of sort of tweaking the rules of Dead Ball and coming up with something that we really enjoyed. So we started talking about, well, what could we do with a game? Could we take all this stuff that we've tweaked and changed about Dead Ball and sort of adapt it to our own game? And then that sort of led me to the question of what's the simplest game I could make while still achieving realistic results. So I kind of went down this path of researching a bunch of different games, specifically small footprint games that didn't have a ton of components or a ton of charts, but still played well. So that started in like 2021, and started doing some research on that. So this is what the cover of the Dead Ball game looks like. You can just search Dead Ball dice game online, and I would highly encourage you to give it a shot. It may not be everybody's cup of tea. It might be a little bit different than what you're used to, but it's a really wonderful game. He's come out with a couple different editions. Each one is its own book, and there's also essays and stories and poems inside the books as well. And he's even created, the creator of Dead Ball has created a fictional league you can play as well. So really, really highly recommended. I came across this quote a couple of years ago, sort of in the process of working on this game, and it really speaks volumes to me. And I think about it all the time. And that is, perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. And that sort of, for me, was the mantra of this entire game. How much could I take away? How many charts, how many dice rolls, how many rules could I pull out of the game and still have a really, really good game? That goes through my mind every time we work on this game, Craig and I do, on how we can streamline things and sort of trim the fat away from what's unnecessary, and boil it down to just a really fun baseball game. Okay, so let's get into how the game actually works. Players are rated in 4 categories from A to D. Batters are batting, power, speed, and defense. And you can see in parentheses, those are the statistics that we base those on. Now, there are inherent problems with some of these, especially fielding percentage. I know as well as you guys do, as people who enjoy advanced metrics, that fielding percentage is generally not the best way to judge someone's defensive ability. I know there's other things out there like zone ratings and other aspects like that, defensive runs saved, things of that nature. But the reason we went with fielding percentage is because it's a statistic that has been kept and is available for players going all the way back to the beginning of the 20th century. If you're looking at some of those advanced metrics, they don't have that data on, or it hasn't been calculated for guys early on. So we've stuck with fielding percentage. For pitchers, they have a fatigue number, which is their average appearance length, pitching based on ERA control, which is ball to strike ratio, and defense as well. Ratings are calculated based on yearly percentage breakdowns, not one universal conversion. We'll talk about that in a couple slides here. The game uses 3 12-sided dice where the rolls of the dice are cross-referenced with the player's ratings on a set of 8 mini charts to determine all results, including at-bats, base running plays, strategy plays, rare plays, and even with our new edition, we're incorporating ballpark factors and manager decisions too. The charts move in a cascading tiered system where multiple attributes from multiple players are used to determine the result of a play. So let me kind of show you how that works. So say we've got a pitcher pitching and a batter batting. This pitcher has a fatigue number of 6, is a B-rated pitcher, A-rated control, and D-rated defense, which a lot of the pitchers are either D or A, and we'll talk about why that is. The batter, we'll say the batter is a C-rated batter, A-rated power, C-rated speed, and B-rated defense. So here are 4 of the 8 charts. These are charts from the 2nd edition of the game. We've got a pitcher, batter, control, and power, and you'll notice that they are color-coded. So I'm going to roll my 3 dice, and the numbers I land on are 8, 11, and 5. 8 on the red, 11 on the yellow, and 5 on the blue. The first thing I do is consult the pitcher chart. The pitcher has a pitcher rating of B, so that's going to be the column I'm looking down. And then I go to the 8. And again, the dice color lines up with the color on the card to make things nice and easy. So I land on bat. What that means is it goes over to the batter's card, and I look at the yellow die, which lines up with the yellow banner. My batter is a C-rated batter, so I'm going to look down the C column, and I landed on 11. That's a power result. So now I'm going to move my way over to the power chart. I'm going to look at my batter's power. He's an A, and I landed on a 5. So I'm going to go to column A, and the 5 is a double runner's advance 2. So that's just one example of how you kind of work your way down the dice and things sort of unfold in front of you. So it creates a nice bit of tension, and I'll talk about that in a second, for the play sort of unfolding in front of your eyes, chart by chart. Some other things that are on this chart just while I'm here, we've got CTL, that's for control. So that would, if you landed, say you had a B-rated pitcher, and you landed on a 3 on the red die, you would go to the control chart and you would check the pitcher's control. This pitcher has A control, so I would be looking in the A column. If I landed on an 11, it would be a walk. If I landed on a 6, it'd be a strikeout. An 8 is a drop third strike. That is something a little bit different. We've got wild pitches and hit by pitches and things of that nature on here as well. So you can see how each player's various ratings sort of come into play on how a play sort of develops. So that's a general idea of how the game's played. If you know how to do that, you basically know how to play the whole game. So you can see how easy it is to play and how quick it is to get your result. And the cool thing too is that every single play is resolved in one roll of those 3 die. You never have to roll a die a second time unless you land on a rare play, which obviously is a rare thing. Rare plays happen when you land on the same number for all 3 dice. So if I landed on an 8, an 8, and an 8, I would go to our rare play chart, which we'll look at a little bit later. So that tiered system, like I said, builds a lot of tension and excitement as each part of the play unfolds, one die at a time. The charts are organized with the higher numbers favoring the offense and the lower numbers favoring the defense. And the reason I did that is so that if you were to roll all 3 dice and you see like a 10, 12, and 11, you know something good happened, right? So you can already kind of tell what happened when you look at the numbers on the dice, which is different than, say, a game like APBA, you know, unless you've memorized what the numbers are, which some people have. But if you don't have those numbers memorized, you kind of don't know what happened until you consult the number on the card and then consult the chart. So, you know, in that sense, it's a little bit different than a game like APA. So you can see on the numbers on the dice generally what happened. In all aspects of the game, a batter, pitcher, or fielder's individual ratings will come into play to affect the result of a play. We didn't really talk about defense at all, but I can talk about that a little bit later. But for example, if there's a runner on first and there's a hard ground ball hit to the second baseman, that second baseman's defense rating will determine which of several possible scenarios could occur. That second baseman could turn the double play. He may throw out only the lead runner. He may only throw out the trailing runner, or he may even boot the ball for an error. So his defense rating and the die roll that you make determines how that plays out. So each player's unique set of ratings has an impact on the outcome of each play. So, a pitcher who has a unique rating of, 6 fatigue, and then a B, an A, and a C is obviously going to pitch better than or pitch differently than a pitcher that has a fatigue number of 5 and an A, D, C rating. So it's not a ton of shades, right? It's only 4 shades of each rating, but that unique combination for each player compared to the other players that are on the field or against the batter that you're pitching against or vice versa creates a unique game where players play the way they're supposed to. So achieving realism, and this is where again we're very open about the fact that this is not going to be as realistic as some of the other big heavy hitters, and we fully admit that and we own that because we're trying to achieve something maybe a little bit different. Our aim was to create a system for rating players that could be automated, meaning that we could easily and quickly rate many players. I am a computer programmer in my career. I'm pretty new to it. Craig has been doing computer programming since he was a kid. He's an absolute wizard. For those of you who are computer programmers, we both primarily work in Python and build applications through that. Craig is also very good at using SQL databases. So he gathers the data of all these players' statistics, and using our player rating system, which I'll describe in a second, we're able to rate players very quickly. And that's how we were able to get 300,000 players in our database, not just from MLB, but from the Negro Leagues, from the Japan League, Korea, and we're adding more every day because we were able to automate this system. Additionally, we can get the current season's players rated almost immediately after the last game of the season and have them ready to share with the public to play along with the playoffs in real time. So probably a day after the regular season ends this year, we'll have ratings ready to go for all those players over the season, so you can actually play along with the 2023 playoffs as it's happening, which is really cool. It doesn't take us a long time to rate players. It's more or less just a click of the button. So in order to make this happen, we had to decide how we go about rating players. Just using a single blanket set of parameters to rate the entire history of professional baseball was just not going to work. And I think you all understand why. It's not as simple as saying, well, an A-rated batter has a batting average from 275 and up, or an A-rated power hitter had, this many home runs or this many extra base hits, because baseball has changed so much throughout the years, right? We go through the dead ball era and then the live ball era, then we go through the 50s where there's a dip, and then 80s, 70s, and 80s, there's a rise in base running. So baseball has changed massively over the years. So just trying to use even a couple sets of parameters through the different eras of baseball wasn't enough. So what we settled on, and this was using a little bit of coding magic, we took all players from every season that we have, which is like, I can't remember, like 1870 something up through 2022, and we divide them up based on that specific statistic, let's say batting average, into 4 equal groups. Players in the top group received an A, players in the next group received a B, the next group down received a C, and then the bottom group received a D. This way, players would be compared just to the players from that season. Let me show you kind of how that works. So in 2017, you can see that if we were to group players into 4 different groups, A, B, C, D, based on their batting average, that A group has a batting average higher than 290. And if you go all the way down to D, it's players that have a batting average below 216. Now, 2018 was a little bit different. Offense was a little bit down. Our batting average was a little bit down in 2018 from 2017. So now an A-rated batter is higher than 283, and a D-rated batter is below 207. And these change for every single season. And there's a couple advantages to that. And there's a couple disadvantages to that. And I'm going to be totally transparent with you, and I'm going to show you one of the disadvantages of doing things that way. 1950 stolen bases. An A-rated base stealer in 1950 would be someone who stole more than 7 bases. Now, if you go to 1987, that same number of stolen bases, let's say 8, stolen bases. You'd be an A-rated base stealer in 1950, but in 1987, you'd be a C-rated base stealer because it's a different era, right? An A-rated base stealer would have over 26 stolen bases. And then I think today's game would be somewhere in the middle, probably leaning more towards, the 1950 probably rather than 1987. So that inherently is a weakness of the game. But like I said, we admit that and we own that for a couple reasons. Using this rating system, here's another good example. Using this rating system, the league leader in home runs in 1924, which was Cy Williams with 13, and the league leader in home runs from 2001, Barry Bonds with 73, both have the same probability of hitting a home run in our game. And that has been something that we've certainly heard from the community, and people say, that's kind of hard to get over. But this was the compromise we were willing to make for two big reasons. One, to automate the player rating system so that we could have ratings for the entire history of baseball and have ratings ready super quick. And it also allows gamers to pit teams from different eras against each other, and you can be assured of a competitive game. Because if we rated these guys apples to apples, it just wouldn't be a contest, right? These guys from the more modern eras would blow the guys from the other eras out of the water if you're using statistics like extra base hits and batting average and things of that nature. Now, I admittedly probably don't know as much about advanced metrics as you guys do, and there probably are advanced metrics that can normalize between the history of baseball better than these statistics. I'm the first to admit that something like batting average is not a tell-all statistic. We know that, right? There are better statistics. ERA, we know there are better statistics than that. We know there are better statistics than wins and losses, than fielding percentage. But this is what we chose because we have the information for the whole history of baseball. What we really focused on most when it came to realism was how the box scores looked. When we finished a game where the number of runs, hits, strikeouts, walks, errors, all those different elements of the game, were they where they were supposed to be? And most importantly, were players and teams performing the way they were supposed to? I just rolled a game a couple nights ago. It was the 1942 Cardinals versus the 1998 Yankees, which was a really fun game. And Stan Musial knocked in 3 runs to take the lead in the 7th with a double. And to me, in that moment, I'm saying, I think that's probably what Stan Musial would have done in that scenario. So in our game, players play the way they're supposed to. Now, if you were to play an entire season out and look at those end of the season stats, you would find some irregularities. Again, going back to Cy Williams from 1924, he would probably end up with about the same number of home runs as Barry Bonds. Definitely not realistic. But if you're looking to sit down and play a season with guys all from the same era, or if you're just looking to play a series or just a fantasy game between two teams from different eras, this game is the perfect niche for that. As far as getting the box scores that we wanted, it was good old-fashioned play testing. We rolled dozens and dozens and dozens of games, and Craig also worked out a simulator, which is in the software for anyone to use. We simmed hundreds of games. We tweaked the charts to the point where it felt like a real MLB game. For the second edition of the game, we developed a second set of charts specifically for the dead ball era. There was really no way we could use the same charts for the entire history of baseball. We needed to have some delineation. So we created dead ball charts where obviously there are some less hits, a lot less home runs, more errors, more triples, and just a different style of play. And we've heard from the community, and the community seems to really enjoy the dead ball charts. And you get those with the game in addition to what we call modern charts. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the software, and then let's switch gears for a second. I'm going to switch my camera. I'm going to turn this off for just a second, and I'm going to show you a little bit about the game here. And I appreciate all your attention. I know it's a lot of information. but I'm going to switch my camera to this overhead camera so I can show you what all the charts look like. Okay, so here is a printout. Let me, 1 second. Okay, so here's a printout of the charts. If you get the print and play game, this is what you get. These are all the charts that you need. I know my camera isn't fantastic quality, but you'll see that there are 8 charts: pitcher, batter, control, power, which are the 4 you saw earlier, and then there are 4 more: defensive play, which when we land on a rating that says defense, we check down here to see which fielder it was hit to. We check out that fielder's defense rating, and we refer to this chart. This is where you're going to get some errors down here. So the worse defensive rating that the player has, the higher probability of there being errors. We've got base running plays. This is not just for stealing bases, but also for things like taking extra bases, tagging up, and something else. Oh, rundowns and pass ball on strike 3. By the way, these are the sort of like in progress 3rd edition charts. You guys are seeing something that nobody else has ever seen before besides me and Craig, which is kind of exciting. We've got a strategy play, which has a bunt, and that bunt column encompasses both a sacrifice bunt and a squeeze play. We've got a hit and run here. And then what's new in this edition are manager ratings. So what we've done is we have a data source that gives us traditional manager ratings based on how often they do things like how aggressive they are with stealing bases, switching pitchers, intentionally walking batters, and there's one more I can't think off the top of my head, sacrificing. And so we're actually rating managers as well throughout the whole history of baseball for what data we have, which I think goes back to about the 30s or 40s. And if you're playing a solo game where you're not playing against somebody and you want to replicate maybe what that manager would have done, you can roll on this to see if the manager goes for it or if he stands pat. So that's a new feature. And then we've got some rare plays over here. We're not encompassing every rare play that could ever happen. Again, this is about boiling the game down to the absolute essentials, cutting out the fat. So I've seen a lot of games that have like 5 pages of rare plays, you know, and some of them get really wacky, like, you know, player got arrested at the bar after the game. He has to sit out the next game. While that's super fun, at least it doesn't quite fit the mantra of our game for keeping things simple and focused. So all of our rare plays are very much based on something that's happening in the game. We've got pass ball on strike 3, catcher's interference, balks, rundowns, pickoffs, possible triple plays, runner interference, and a ball that gets past an outfielder with the potential for an inside the park home run. So we boil it down to just those rare plays. So, and again, we've got just 3 12-sided die. Got those, whoops, right here. And that's all you need to play. You got your scorecard. I'll show you a scorecard here in just a little bit, but everything you need is right here on this page. There are dead ball charts, like I said, that are just slightly tweaked, but it's still just these 8 charts. Again, we're going for a really, really small footprint here. We're going for, you know, if you wanted to play on your break at work, you could have these charts in a folder in your backpack. You know, you don't have to really set anything up. You put this out, you put your scorecard out, and you're ready to go. And you roll your 3 dice, and you've got a full-fledged, realistic baseball simulation to play. So that's what we were aiming for. All right, let's go back to the PowerPoint. And again, I will, for those who maybe showed up a little bit later, I will do some questions at the end. I'll just kind of get everything out there, and then you're more than welcome to ask a bunch of questions. Okay. All right, so the software, and I will show you the software here in just a little bit. The software, sorry, okay. Craig created the software, built in Python. Unquestionably, to my knowledge, the most robust and expansive tabletop baseball game companion software ever built. For a lot of people who play this game, the software is what makes it for them and what is the difference maker for them. Our database has well over 300,000 players. I think last we checked, it was 308,000 players, and includes the following leagues: MLB from 1871 to present, Negro leagues, the Japanese league, the MPB, the KBO from Korea. We've got minor league baseball AAA teams from 2000 on, which there are a lot of people who've told us they're very appreciative of that, especially if they're from a smaller town that doesn't have a major league team, but they have a AAA team. They can play with those players. We added College World Series teams this past year. It was or I guess 21, yeah, when somebody asked for it. So we whipped those together. And then this year for the 3rd edition, this is the first time we're telling anybody about this. We're going to be including the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. So we're talking the Rockford Peaches, we're talking the Blue Sox, all of these teams, a league of their own. Craig was able to find a resource, a book, actually, a physical book that had statistics, and the GPBL website also has some great information about these player stats. And Craig painstakingly manually entered these stats into the software, and we have ratings for those teams. So coming up in the 3rd edition, you're going to be able to play the Women's League, which I personally cannot tell you how excited I am about that. That has been a dream for a long time. So that's coming up in the 3rd edition. And you guys can correct me otherwise. But as far as I know, we're the only game that's going to have that. So we're really, really excited about that. All right. Oops. Okay, so there's some shots of the software. It's very simple. I will kind of show it to you in action. But you'll notice we've got a number of different buttons here, and I'll talk about what each one of these does. And this is a general page for building your lineup. Basically, you load a team from any of those leagues that I listed on the previous slide. You load up the team shows up here, and you can plug them into your lineup and print a PDF score sheet. So a couple things that it does: team management. You can load rosters from that big database. Like I said, you can add and remove players from rosters. You can even create custom players, and you can save custom players, meaning that if you wanted to put in your recreational softball league or your kids' little league team, you can input them, and you can convert stats if you have stats, or you can just make up ratings for those guys and put them into the software. You can generate pre-filled printable PDF scorecards with the players' names, positions, handedness, and all of our ratings on there, which saves you a bunch of time. StatFacts, you can look up career stats for any player in the database. So this is also sort of just an encyclopedia of stats. You can set criteria for searches, customize results, and then you can print Excel sheets with entire teams' ratings. You'll notice that you may have noticed when we looked at the roster cards, it didn't show maybe every player that played on the team that year. Some people like to have every player, even if the guy had one at bat, like every cup of coffee that showed up on that roster, they want that. So you can do that with the Excel sheet. And then you can also print the team rosters on cards. So you can cut those cards out and have your own cards. So here's what a score sheet looks like. I apologize for being a little bit smaller, but this is what you would print out. So I've got the 2022 World Series, 22 Phillies and 22 Astros. All I did was I loaded up those two teams. I made my lineup. I said what position they're going to play, and the software did the rest. And this is a PDF that was printed out, and it saves a bunch of time with playing a game. And if you want to play a series, you just keep those teams loaded. You don't have to load a team every time you open the software. It just, the teams you load stay there, and the lineups you load stay there. So you can print this out and you're ready to go. Game simulations. I'll show you a screenshot of that in a second. You can simulate games using any team in the database with the dead ball or modern era charts. You can create custom stipulations for when to bring relief pitchers in the game. This is when it started blowing my mind. Even as a computer programmer, when Craig was showing me this, I was so impressed. So what you can do is you can choose two teams. You can tell the software when to bring a relief pitcher in, whether it's when a pitcher drops a certain rating, when he gives up a certain number of runs, or after a certain number of innings. So the simulation, when you hit sim game, it will play the game exactly like you told it to play it. And it will give you a blow-by-blow account of every roll of the dice and what happened. Like I said, I'll show you that in just a second. You can print season Excel sheets and team cards. I think I might have already mentioned that. And you can do box score simulations. This is a new thing from version 2. Craig has also loaded pre-filled lineups in, so you can choose basically any date in the history of Major League Baseball. It's limited to Major League Baseball right now. Actually, I think it's 1920 through present. Choose any date from 1920 through present, and it will give you the lineup exactly as that game was played, with the lineup, the pitcher, the bench, and the relievers that were on the team at that time and playing in that game. That's an absolute game changer. So if you want to replay an entire season, it can give you the lineups from every game from that season. If you just want to replay a World Series, it'll do that exact same thing. So here's what the game sim looks like. So I simmed a game between the 75 Reds and the 86 Mets. I told it what lineup to use. I told what pitchers to use, and I hit a game sim, and this is what popped out. So you can see, looks like Tony Perez and George Foster each hit home runs. Johnny Bench had 2 hits. Doesn't look like there were any stolen bases. There were some strikeouts, walks. You can also see the pitcher's line. Gary Nolan pitched pretty well. 7 innings, 6 hits, and 3 earned runs. And then you can actually scroll down the side here and see what every roll was. The first roll of the game was a 7-8-2, which for Pete Rose is a single. So it will tell you all this stuff. And again, I'm still impressed with this, with what Craig did with this. It's a lot of fun to see games played like this. So if you're doing a season and you don't want to play all the games, you can sim all the other games in the season and just play the games for your team. Okay, so that's a general overview of how the game works. I will actually, real quick, I'll go ahead and show you the software. Whoops. Okay, so let me show you the software. Okay. All right, so here's what the software looks like. I will do this. There we go. So when you open it up, here's team management. And this is your main dialog for loading teams. So I've got a couple different teams loaded in here. I'll go ahead and open up the 43 Homestead Grays. So there's our team right there. It's got every player. And then if I want to create a lineup, it's also got our pitchers here. And we even have pitcher batting traits, which in the first version of the game, we just said all pitchers were D, but we didn't take into account how many good hitting pitchers there are. And it looks like Homestead Grays had some pretty legit pitchers, probably because most of them were also position players. So if you want to add a guy, if you want to add Josh Gibson, if you want him to be first in the lineup, you just click there. You can choose whether he's going to be a catcher or outfielder for this game. I'll say he's going to be a catcher. And it'll fill him up into the lineup. So I would fill that out, and then I could print my score sheet. You can also choose if you want a pitcher to hit in the lineup, pre-DH, or you can just have a DH. Totally up to you. I won't show you everything here, but here's the box score replay. If you want to replay the, 1982 season, it was a good one for the Cardinals. We'll go down. Here's all the teams, even the Boston Beaneaters. So we'll go all the way down to St. Louis Cardinals, and we'll do load team schedule. So we're going to let that load up. Here's every game that the Cardinals played throughout that season. And I can run a box score sim. I can show the lineup. I can show the box score. I can show stats and standings as it goes down. And I can, like I said, the box score sim, I can choose the first game if I want to sim that. We can do a full game sim, which takes a little bit longer. It does like the full simulation, like I showed you earlier. A quick sim is it's a calculation that Craig came up with. I can't speak to exactly how it works, but it's a much quicker sim. We'll do the full game sim, and we'll let it run for just a little bit. And it looks like the Cardinals won 6-0. And if I wanted to look at what happened in that game, show box score. Is that it? There we go. So that's what happened in that game. Looks like Bob Forsch pitched 1 hit through 7 innings. Looks like no home runs in the game, but Tom Hurst stole 2 bases. Ozzie stole a base. So that's the simulation of the entire game that happened right there. So you can sim as many of the games as you want, or you can play the games, and it will print the lineups for you. Okay. So there's a couple other things in here, but I won't take too long on that. But that's the software, and the software comes free with the game. Whether you buy the print and play or the physical game, you will get the software. And the other cool thing about the software is if you bought the game from the first edition, every time we update the software, updates are free forever. So you will always get an update, and updates will also be available. All right, we're just about to the end here, and then I will do questions from current slide. So the third edition of the game is going to be released this fall via the Game Crafter. The Game Crafter is a service that creates games for you. Originally, when we first started making the game, we were buying all the components ourselves and stuffing the boxes. Really, Craig was doing most of it and shipping the games out. But now through the Game Crafter, they're a company that makes games for you, so that everything is order on demand. So if you go to the Game Crafter and order the game, they will make it and ship it to you. It's made life a lot easier for Craig and myself because we're not going to the post office every day. Major software update will be released shortly after the conclusion of the 2023 regular season. Again, paying customers receive all software updates for free forever. We've had 3 leagues so far. We've had a 260s leagues and I think like a 90s league. I'll show you the league stats, but there are going to be more coming soon. Craig has begun work on an advanced version of the game called Pocket Pennant Run: The Next Pitch. I don't think Craig is here. He can maybe tell you a little bit more about it. And I don't see Craig. But it's a little bit more based in analytics. So it may be something that all of you may enjoy. And then we're constantly listening to gamer feedback via our online forum and our active Facebook community. We've got over 600 people in our Facebook community. You're more than welcome to join. You don't have to be a paying customer to join the community. You just have to ask and we will approve. Okay. So here's a couple. Oh, actually, there is a first look at the box for the third edition. Again, you guys are the first ones seeing it. That's what the box is going to look like for the third edition. We're really excited about that. And then here's some links. So if you'd like to check out the game and learn more about the game, you can go to pocketpennantrun.weebly.com. Actually, I'll just go ahead and show you that. Here we go. So there's our website there. This has information about the game. You can shop for the game here. We've also got a game mat that has the charts on it. We've got an all-time greats roster card set. We've got some video guides for the software. So if you're not sure how to use the software or not sure how to play the game, you can watch those video guides. Same thing here. If you go to About and do how to play, we've got a whole YouTube series of how to play the entire game step by step. These videos are short. They're all 5 minutes or less, and you'll be playing the game in no time. Here are our 3 leagues that we've had. So we had a 1964 league with some of these teams, and here's the results from those. We had a 90s league, which was a lot of fun, except I was the 98 Cardinals, and we were awful. But you can see that the Braves and the Indians ended up on top in each division, which would be considered relatively accurate, the 98 New York Yankees. So generally the teams that were pretty good ended up on top, though I think a lot of these teams in here were pretty good teams in their day. And then the league that just concluded about a month ago was another 60s league. I was not a part of this one, but it looks like the Tigers were the best team, but the Pirates actually won the series, surprisingly. You never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. Here's our Facebook group. If you'd like to join that, it's just facebook.com/groups/Pocket Pennant Run. We've got guys posting all the time about their game replays and questions about the game and just their experiences just with baseball in general. So that's a lot of fun. And then, And then here's our YouTube page, which has information about all the videos that were linked in there. So if you'd like to just go to YouTube, it's just youtube.com/@PocketPennantRun, and you can check out how to use the software, how to play the game. We even announced new products on there. We had a mint tin version that we released that was kind of a limited run. You can check out the all-time great roster card set. You can even see another game that I released called Small Ball. So I think I'll leave this up for just another second if anybody wanted to screen capture this or write these down. But pocketpennantrun.weebly.com will give you links to everything else here. So at this point, I'm good for questions. I appreciate your patience while I kind of got through that stuff. I hope it was interesting to you. And I welcome any questions or thoughts or feedback or criticisms you might have.
Well, while you're getting that ready and Matt's getting a drink from all that talking, I just saw another headline come across. I guess Commissioner Manfred is saying that with both the Yankees and Mets finishing in last place and all the TV revenue they're going to lose, they're going to have a 3-game series during the wild cards between the two teams to see who stinks more. Okay. John, that should really make you happy as a Yankee.
Yeah, you got that right.
So we'll open it up to questions. It's quite interesting. I know, Matt, you kept saying about, many of us are in all kinds of the heavier metrics and stuff. Many of our members aren't. And any game, we'll give it the airtime that we can. We're always looking for more. Every game has a different audience. And some games have multiple audiences, and we're all about promoting that. We're not just into one game or 2 games. So I see Tim's got a question in the chat here. If you replay a particular game, do you expect similar win-loss results? How likely is the outcome score and win-loss to agree with what actually happened? For example, would Joe Carter win the series for the Jays? Yeah, would he?
That's asking a lot. That would be realism, wouldn't it? I mean, I think like any other simulation, it's more about if you're looking at a sample size of one game, anything can happen in one game, and we know that from real baseball. I always think back to my 2011 St. Louis Cardinals, who were by all means a very average team through the entire season, snuck into the playoffs and won the whole thing. And it's funny to me how often wild card teams end up winning the World Series, almost more often than like top seed teams. It's about who's hot, So no, it's not always going to agree with win-loss, especially in the sample of just one game. But if you played the length of a season or a series, you would probably see that Joe Carter, being a good player, may play better or will likely play better than an average hitter on the team.
Yeah. I mean, you got to figure out how to have a bat flip too. Eh? Jerry's wondering, why did you choose just 4 rating groups? A, B, C, D? Is that related to the physical card size or something else?
It is actually very much related to the physical card size. We've talked about adding a 5th rating, but it just crowded up the cards too much. And that leads to, well, just use bigger cards. And we've contemplated that. And I think that's one thing that Craig is looking at for his more advanced edition of the game, is adding another rating or 2, like, a little bit more shades of difference, So yeah, it had a lot to do with the cards, and just that's kind of where we started. We started with something simple, and that's how we first released the game, and people seemed to like it. And it was like, why mess with a good thing if people seem to enjoy it? All the stuff fits on cards. It's easy to convert the stats like that. We just kind of stuck with it, and we're reluctant to change the original game to anything more than 4 ratings, really for the reason of loyalty to our original people who bought the game in the first edition. We don't want all their cards to become useless. We sold the all-time great set, which is an all-time team of players for all 30 teams. Now, because stats are based on one season, we took each one of, let me see if I can explain this correctly. We took the highest WAR, obviously wins above replacement, for each position for that team. Now, WAR is kind of a divisive statistic, right? Not everybody's into it. So we definitely heard from the community about where they felt like somebody else should have been on the all-time great team. And, there's always going to be controversy about who's the best player ever. for, who's the best catcher for the Cardinals? Who's the best third baseman for the Cardinals? Was it Ken Boyer? Was it Scott Rowland? Or was it somebody else, Nolan Arenado? You can debate that all day. We used WAR because it was a real cut and dry way to pick guys. So anyway, we didn't want to abandon those people who bought those card sets that only had 4 ratings by adding a 5th rating and making all of their stuff irrelevant. So a lot of it comes down to loyalty.
Barry's wondering, do you have injuries in game and Earl Weavers? I mean, ejections during games as well?
We do have Earl Weavers in the game. We didn't add an ejection rating though. Maybe that's for future editions. So this brings up a really good question. And we've had injuries in the game, and we've actually had ejections in the game all the way up to this 3rd edition. And I chose to take both of those out of the game because we want to make the game as flexible for you as possible. We found that this game is very, very conducive for homebrew rules. And not only do are we okay with that, we encourage that. On our Facebook group, players are constantly sort of adding their own flair to the game. There have been guys who have rewritten the charts, used different dice. I've seen one guy created a version of the charts that had for 20-sided dice. So there's a little bit more of a gradient of, play results. So when I looked at injuries in the game, the 1st edition of the game said who was injured and how long they were injured. But then I kind of thought to myself, like, well, it depends on if you're playing an entire season, then a major injury would probably be 30 or 40 games. But if you're only playing a 40-game season, then maybe a 5 or 10 game injury would be a major injury. So by choosing how long an injury was, we were putting a lot of limits on how you could play the game. So in the 2nd edition, we decided injuries were just going to be major or minor. And told people, hey, decide on whatever you want for the length of the injuries. And then by the 3rd game, again, I'm trying to filter and make the game more streamlined. I just said, you know what, I'll let people decide how they want to do injuries. So stuff that's not included in the game is not necessarily because we forgot about it or we didn't want to do it. It's because it was almost too much of a personal preference thing than for us to decide how you should play the game. So it's totally up to you how you want to do injuries. We took ejections out because that is something that affects the way the game is played, right? I personally don't like the idea of rare plays that take players out of the game, injuries and ejections. If I wanted to do that for my replay, I would. I know there's a lot of people that when they play our game and they play the earlier editions of our game, they land on an injury and ejection, they just skip it because they're like, well, I don't want to lose this guy, or something happens where like a guy who's not usually someone who would get ejected gets ejected from the game, and you're like, that's not realistic. So we just decided, you know what, we're taking injuries and ejections out, and we're going to let guys decide what they want to do as far as that's concerned. And we really boiled it down to what happens between the baselines. And that was just a philosophical decision.
Okay, Tim's wondering, for playoffs, how would you handle players who don't play much in the season? Their ratings might not be realistic. For example, Davis Schneider, whose rating right now would be through the roof, at least for playoff consideration, notwithstanding the fact they are not. They got to play Texas 3 games, and Texas got to play a bunch of other people. Yeah, no way, man. They're not out of it yet.
That's funny. Well, that's a good point. And I think all baseball sims deal with that. What do you do with guys who have very limited stats? How do you accurately rate them? And we don't have a good answer for that, especially because we're automating. We have set limits for like plate appearances. I'm trying to think what our number is, but if a guy is under a certain number of plate appearances, or doesn't have enough statistics to make accurate results, I think we put him at like a C, which would be kind of like average. Maybe not the world's best compromise, but again, if you've got a guy who only had 5 at bats in the season and he got 2 hits, he's the greatest hitter that ever lived, and that's just like not realistic. So I don't have a good answer for that, but like I said, we do have plate appearance limits for whether or not a guy gets bona fide statistics.
Okay, sorry, I got dogs telling me it's supper time for them. John's wondering, can you use as played lineups? If so, that would eliminate injuries.
Right. You can, yeah. So the software allows you to do as played lineups. And yeah, that's one thing that injuries complicate, is that if you are trying to do a season replay, a guy got injured, but the as played lineup has him in there, what are you going to do? So that's why we kind of left it to people decide if they want to include injuries or not. If you're trying to go for as played replay, then injuries, wouldn't be a thing. The as played lineups would basically be the injuries for you, right? If a guy got injured in real life, he's not going to be in the lineup. So it takes care of that. So you're right.
Matt, this is a great game. I just wanted to invite you to our SABR meetings. I'm the secretary of the St. Louis chapter, so I'm here in town. Yeah, we have our research conference at the end of the month, September 30th at Webster University, and
my alma mater.
We typically meet at the Sports Cafe in Bridgeton, and we could schedule you for either of those. This was a fantastic presentation.
Thanks. Yeah, I got your name down. I'll put my email address in the chat. If you want to shoot me an email with that information, that would be awesome. I'd love to come check things out. And that's great you're doing it at Webster U. That's my alma mater. That's where I went to college.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks for introducing yourself. That's exciting.
And everybody in the call knows that by September 30th, nobody will be watching St. Louis, and they're not watching them now. But
this is true.
That was the story in the paper today about how terrible attendance is.
Yeah.
We're not used to this.
Yeah, we're a soccer city now. We're an MLS city now.
It's tough for St. Louis because they're still one of the few teams that it's all about attendance for their money.
We don't have the big TV deals that the West Coast and East Coast teams have. So
no.
As bad as the Yankees are playing, Mark, they're still drawing like 42,000 a game. As bad as they've been.
Well, that's because they can boo and throw things at people on the field.
Pay good money for that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I saw. I mean, this is a bit off topic. We'll get back on. I think it was at the analytics, or it could have been one of the big conventions, where they showed where teams are getting their money, and so little of it now is from attendance. Their revenue streams, the economics of the games has changed so much, but there are teams that it is, the tickets is still a big significant part. Okay, Derek, you got questions? You're awful quiet there.
Yeah, I got a couple comments. So Matt, I do appreciate the ease of use, the streamlining of the game. It's definitely something I've run into with a couple of my other attempts at tabletop gaming. I'm coming from a more computer baseball simulation background. I kind of grew up on Micro League and Earl Weaver baseball and some of that stuff. So, but when I tried to play some of the tabletop, I think I got bogged down with all of the charts, and I had to flip to this page and roll again and do all this stuff. So the fact that it's, you roll 3 dice and you look at a couple, you have one chart in front of you, and that's where you're going to find your results. So I can definitely appreciate that. I was going to say with the your comparison of like the Cy Williams example, that is something I would expect if you moved him into a different era, or even somebody today, you move them from a pitcher's park to Coors Field, you're going to see a jump in their output, right?
Mhm.
So you know, okay, maybe Cy Williams hitting 70 home runs might be a stretch, but you know, if he put up 30 or 40 or even 50 home runs, but he was the lead home run guy in his era, I don't think that's too big of a leap, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's a general idea of just things normalizing. So your outliers, your top level players, everything's gonna be normalized towards the center. So, you know, Aaron Judge is not going to hit 62 home runs, but you know, he's going to hit less than that, and then Cy Williams is going to come up in the middle. So everything's sort of like normalized. But as compared to the other players that they're playing against, the comparison is going to be, you know, equal in a sense that this guy is going to be better than this guy in that setting. So it's less about like the combined stats of one player and more just how the players interact with each other.
Definitely. And the other thing I know you mentioned, it is great that you have all the additional, you know, like you said, the some of the foreign leagues, the Negro leagues. Now you've got the All American Girls League in there. So I have seen some of them available in other games, but and a lot of times, you know, with a computer sim, you could sit there and input all that stuff yourself.
Right.
But the fact that you've got it readily available is another bonus. So also, you know, just to commend you guys on being able to add that all in. Now, I guess my question was also that stuff. Are you purchasing single seasons, or everything's available? You purchase the physical product and you get all of the seasons through that software, or how does that work?
Yeah, you get the keys to everything. We didn't really want to, you know, we didn't want to do too much, I don't know what you'd call it, gatekeeping, throttling, whatever, like only give you a little bit of it and then you got to buy every piece. That was also another thing that Craig and I just never really liked, but we get it. If you're painstakingly making the cards and putting in the time it takes to make the accurate cards that APA and Strat and some of these other games have, I think they're very justified in charging for each season, because that takes a lot of time, way more time, admittedly, than it takes for us to make ratings. So that's why we just include everything. So for what it's worth, if people are interested in checking it out, I believe the game is on the Game Crafter right now for $25. And that's the physical game, and you get a license to have the software. And again, you get updates forever. I mean, we could, I mean, for what the software charges or what the software does, and we've been told this many times, we could charge a lot more, but I mean, this is not admittedly a, you know, business endeavor for myself or Craig. This is a hobby and a passion, and we want to get it in as many people's hands as possible. And we love doing stuff like this, talking to passionate people and seeing other people playing and enjoying the game. And that's way more important to us than making money. So neither of us have quit our day jobs by any means. But we want it to be affordable so people can get it, you know, almost kind of like that. Well, for that much, it's hard to pass it up. I'll give it a shot, you know, kind of price range. So, but yeah, you get everything. You get everything out of the box. You can load up any team in history that you want to play, and you can be rolling in half an hour.
I have one more question, and I might have missed it when you were going over the strategy, the rare plays, that type of stuff. Is there anything that has to do with like the ballpark factors? Like, are you specifying what stadium you're at, and does it matter? You know, one stadium has a, you know, center field fence that's 440 feet away, or that type of thing. Is there anything that factors the the stadium distances and elevation, all that stuff in?
Not to that extent. We've added a ballpark factor into the 3rd edition, and it's very, very simple. Now, this may be something that we tease out a little bit more in future editions, or maybe in Craig's more advanced edition. But the way the ballpark factor works is that we've got, I think, pretty much, gosh, every major league team we were able to get, I think, from like 1920 on, and some of the older ones as well. We were basically able to, the only information that we were interested in for ballparks was, is it generally a hitter's park, a pitcher's park, or is it neutral? And on the 3rd edition charts, there is a result on the batter chart that says park. Basically what that means is it's the same as power. So you go to the power chart, but you check the ballpark that you're playing in. And if the ballpark is a hitter's park, your batter would go up 1 power rating. If the park was a pitcher's park, your batter would go down 1 power rating. If it was neutral, it'd stay the same. So it's definitely not to the level of taking into account elevation, park dimensions, green monsters and short porches and all those various things. It's not taking that, or like the Polo Grounds is not, necessarily play any different than any other hitter's park. But it's just one little thing we wanted to add, because the thing that we're always thinking about when we've made future editions of the game is, how can we add another level of intrigue to the game without making the game more complex? So, and without adding too much extra stuff, I'd love to add things like, well, what's the weather for the game today? Or, what's the chemistry of the team? Because a lot of these games have stuff like that, and that stuff's super fun. But I have to remind myself, that's not really what our game is intended to do. We have to kind of stick to our guns and stick to our philosophy of, how can we make a pretty breezy game that's fun to play, and you don't have to make a dozen rolls before the first pitch is even thrown. So yeah, that's our ballpark factor. Again, it's super simple, but it just adds one little extra level of intrigue and interest, and maybe just one more pinch of realism, I guess, without making the game any more complicated.
That makes sense to me. Sometimes simple is better, and like you said, this isn't meant to be a drawn out. You could sit there and play a game for 30 minutes or an hour, or there's some games I know you can do either 1 pitch, get the result, or you can do a full pitch. I don't have 2 hours to play 1 game, so
right. Right. I mean, admittedly, and this is just my personal preference, and others may feel different. Any game that goes pitch by pitch, I'm just like, that just, oh my goodness, that just takes too long. I mean, me, that would take too long. So, but some people love it. I mean, some people got the time, I mean, I may feel different when I'm retired and I got time. I may love a game that I can sit down and play for 3 hours, but right now, this is my type of game.
I'd rather get 10 games in 3 hours.
Right.
But again, it's a personal preference, so I agree.
Yeah, but if you're playing the Angels, I mean, they lose every time. So,
yeah,
Matt, I might suggest to you that once it's official and out there about the American Girls Association as part of it, reaching out, I think Leslie Heafy's very involved. I mean, she's our vice president and kind of looks after the chapters a bit, or the research groups a bit. It might be worth pitching to one of their meetings or something out there about it.
Okay.
Because I don't think
she does the women in baseball. Committee, right?
I don't think
awesome.
This is the first time I've heard of a simulation or tabletop game or any of them that actually has the women in. Derek is a bit of a historian. He's probably going to correct me, but it's the first I've heard. So, speaking to that, John wants to know if Maybell's in the game.
Maybell? I'm sorry, I missed the reference. I'm missing the reference.
All the way May.
I'm a bad baseball fan. Sorry.
Madonna played her in the movie.
Oh,
League of Their Own. All the way May.
Right. unfortunately, I think the movie was all fictional players, but it's pretty.
Yeah, but Maybell, actually, she was at Saber 51.
Oh, is that right? Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was. And I said it there, and I'll say it again. She's what did she say? She's like 92 or 93, and she's still full of piss and vinegar, man. I wouldn't want to mess with her. And her cane's a baseball bat, and she could still use it, I think.
She's a real firecracker.
So,
yeah.
so there are some of the characters in the film were real players.
Absolutely were. And
wow, I didn't know that.
And same with the Amazon series, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Right. I watched that Amazon series, and I thought this was kind of this was good because it's kind of like I thought this was good timing because now it's kind of like this league is sort of back in the public consciousness. So
I feel was the Amazon is a little more realistic to what actually transpired in the league.
Even the character that Gina Davis played, too, I think, is real life character.
Yeah, Dottie was a real person.
Right. For what it's worth, I can again exclusive look. I can give you guys a look if you'd like to take a look at the Peaches card. I can show you that real quick and see if
I know Maybell's not on there. She said outright she hated the Peaches.
Is that right? Yeah, I've got let's see here. All right, so there's 1950 Peaches. So as you can see, the pitching is very limited. This is the only data we had, but and we didn't have any information on the manager, but there's your squad right there. But we've got.
I think Helen Fox was based in the movie.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's so cool.
And Alice as well.
Oh, okay. Alice DeShane, yeah. And then we've got, who was the other team? So we're going to put two of these. Here's South Bend Blue Sox. We're going to put two of the girls league teams in the physical game for version 3, just as sort of like a teaser, so we're putting together a set called the Great American, what do we call it? The Great American Teams roster card set. And you can see the teams that would be on there. It's maybe a little bit small, but we chose 2 Negro League teams, the 43 Grays and the 35 Crawfords. And then we chose 2 Girls League teams, and the rest were MLB teams. We tried to choose some from different eras. But those are the cards, those are the physical roster cards that look like this that are going to come with the 3rd edition. And they're on poker cards, just like the charts are. So you can carry them all together. We don't do physical cards for too many things, just because they take time to make and print. And but people ask that, like, are you going to card entire seasons? We just don't really have the time to do that. But we include these 10, we're going to be including these 10 roster cards, and they're double-sided. One side is batters, one side is pitchers, with the physical game. So yeah, we're kind of excited to do something different. What we did previously in the previous 2 editions is we offered the 8 divisional playoff teams. Problem with that is then we would be releasing a game every year, and I don't think we're going to be doing that. So rather than release the newest teams on roster cards, we decided to release some classic teams, because honestly, I think a lot of people that play these games aren't as interested in playing the most recent season as they are with playing classic teams. So yeah, so we switched over to the classic teams.
Yeah, but Yankees fans think every team of theirs is a classic. Oh, sorry, that was a shot I really shouldn't make. Any other questions for Matt?
I heard somebody say something. Well, if you do have any other questions, my email's in the chat. Feel free to shoot me an email. I can actually, if you here, I'll put our quote unquote business email on here as well. If you have questions about the software, you can contact if you email that email, both myself and Craig look at it. Generally, Craig answers software questions. I answer gameplay questions. But if you'd like to reach out to Craig and ask him about the software, you can certainly do that as well. And we always try to respond to all emails, people that ask questions about the game. We listen to everybody's suggestions. We're not above suggestions. There have been some elements in the game that have been suggested by the community that we said, that's a great idea, let's put it in. So, we're always open to ideas and thoughts, and we like to hear people's homebrew ideas. And again, join the Facebook group as well if you'd like. Even if you don't have the game, you can just poke around and see what people are doing with the game and some replays people are doing. The only thing we tell the Facebook group is like, don't just post charts and stuff like, stuff that generally we ask people to pay for. So I try not to post too much stuff, but you can post your replays and ask questions and stuff like that. So it's fun. It's a good community. We had a guy today who is from Europe, I guess, and I guess he doesn't know a lot about baseball. He's like, I came across your game and I'm trying to learn how to fill out a scorecard. And we had like a dozen people respond like, hey, here's some resources on how to fill out a scorecard. So it's a very, very friendly, supportive community with lots of engagement. So we're really happy that people seem to get along playing this game together. So brings people together.
It really does. It is a game that brings people together. You go and have a few pops after and complain about your team or say why your team is the best in the world. That's Yankee fans. Anyway. Oh, okay. Just point out in case you've missed it, they've announced that SABR 52 is going to be in Minneapolis in August next year. That actually, I didn't think I was going to be able to make it. That date is going to work for me pretty good. So I hope to be there. But, who knows what'll be going on in the year. If there are other games or other resources you have and you or want us to seek some things out, just drop something to Derek and I. We'll see what we can do or figure out. Or if you've got people, that would be great. Derek's running out of his people on his list. There's a few I'd like to contact. I just got to get off my butt and do it. Any other questions? Any other things happening? Anybody wants to talk about?
No, I think I'm good. Matt, really appreciate you coming on. Very informative and looking forward to trying out your game.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun talking to people who are passionate about the hobby. And yeah, I look forward to coming to future events and maybe getting involved with the St. Louis chapter.
It'd be fantastic.
Well,
Awesome.
with no playoff baseball in St. Louis, they got lots of time. So
What are we gonna do?
That's
Right?
true. That's true.
Reminisce about the good old days.
Mark's
It
on
did
a roll
it did-
tonight.
It did clear up the schedule. We don't have to worry about October conflicts. So.
There you
Right,
go.
exactly.
It was funny before you guys came on. I was mentioning to Derek, we're having a real bear problem up here and stuff. And, he's going like, you're so far away from everything. So for me, baseball is watching it on TV for the most part. I don't get to go to games. Closest minor league team to me is 9 hours away.
Wow.
So, and that's the Vancouver Canadians. So I'm way up here, but the forest fires have been knocking the Bears into town, as well as the drought conditions we've been facing for the last couple of years. So,
Yikes.
fortunately, they haven't come to eat me or my dogs yet. So they're black bears. They generally don't eat meat, black bears. So, but they do eat garbage, and that's the problem we have. If they become garbage bears, then they don't have a lot of choice what to do with them. Can't rehome them out in the forest. Okay, last chance, Matt. Not looking like a whole lot. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. You get updates, you get anything. I would encourage you to reach out to St. Louis with Jeremy there, as well as Leslie. I think women in baseball, it might be a whole new market for you to hit.
Yeah, I plan to. That's really exciting.
I think that might be something they'd be interested in.
Cool.
Um,
Awesome.
okay. Okay, folks. Derek, did you want to make an announcement about our next one yet?
Sure. Yep. Next meeting, we're looking at September 21st, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Western, with Don Daglow. Don has been in the video game industry for over 40 years. He was involved with, he started at Mattel Electronics, so he was one of the first programmers they hired there. He did Utopia, which was a simulation game. He worked with Eddie Dombrower on World Series Major League Baseball, Earl Weaver Baseball, and then he formed his own company, Stormfront Studios, where he did the Tony La Russa baseball series and Old Time Baseball. So Don is a veteran of the gaming industry, executive producer for a number of games, not just baseball related, but we're looking forward to talking to Don in a few weeks. So if you guys are able to make that one, I'm going to send out the information tomorrow. You can register for that meeting, and we've got a couple others lined up as well a little bit later this year. Haven't ironed out those dates yet, but after that, my list is starting to run dry. So if you guys have other suggestions for speakers, please let us know.
And so for those of you whose teams are still in a playoff hunt, have a happy September. Those that aren't, sorry. Well, not for the Yankees, but everybody else, sorry. I do feel for St. Louis, but I cheer for the Jays, I cheer for the Cubs, and then I cheer for anybody who's playing New York.
How about Seattle?
As long as they're not playing the Jays, sure.
All right.
I don't mind.
How can you
I've
not?
got-
how can you not
I've
root for the
got-
Orioles right now?
Yeah, no.
You know what? Baltimore or Saber 50 was in Baltimore. I got to see I think it was about 4 games at the park, lovely park.
Yeah.
They had some pretty lean years. It's hard not to watch them and feel good, except when they're playing the Jays. I'll tell you, Mountcastle is a Jay killer. I'll tell you, I swear, if the guy played against the Jays, he'd be a 700 hitter and it'd be an MVP. I mean, he just kills us. But this isn't Jay's talk tonight. So hopefully when we see you on the 21st, they're still in the hunt. So I'll just last call if anybody has anything else they want to say.
Just thank you, Matt, for a great presentation tonight. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks. Yep. Appreciate it. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. And,
All right, good night.
We'll post once it gets posted up. It may not be until next week because I know Jacob's taking some time off. So once it's posted, you can tell your friends to watch this, or you can watch it again.
Yeah, Matt, we'll send you the link. You can feel free to share it on your Facebook forum and everything. So
Great. Thank you.
all right, guys.
All right. Thanks,
Good night.
everyone.
See you
Take
later.
care. Yep, thanks.
Bye.
Have a good night.
I'm not having fun here.
All right.
I'm trying to find the cut here.
Oh, for recording? I think I got it here. Stop recording.
There we go.